Hi, Bevan.
Hey, Rennie. Great to talk with you today. So
My
we're
pleasure.
doing a soul-to-soul talk, a show that helps you live your dreams. And today we're going to learn about the three secrets of the wealthy. This is exciting as I've struggled with abundance for years and I'm looking for a breakthrough. And I can feel that I'm on the cusp of one now. Abundance can be tricky for spiritual people who care deeply. And I'm committed to figuring it out and helping people free themselves so they can shine as their brightest version of themselves. And so, really happy that you're here, Rennie. Thank you for letting me interview you today.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. And I understand the struggle because I've been there myself, but it was probably more frustrating for me because while you're talking about being spiritual, and a lot of spiritual people have that struggle with money, I was certified as a financial planner, chartered as a life underwriter, educated in finances, and had not been taught the basics of even doing a budget. And I've spoken to certified public accountants, and they're not taught that information either. So it's like a hidden secret that everyone is expected to know, and no one's taught.
Oh yeah, I can see how that's frustrating because you're the person that people look to as a professional or an expert, but then you yourself weren't wealthy and didn't know how to become wealthy. And so it's really difficult. It's like a life coach where they're like, my life is a mess. How can I tell people that
Yeah,
I'm a success coach, right?
perfect. Exactly. I remember supporting someone with their finances who was a success coach. She was in her 40s. She wanted to know where she could park her car so it wouldn't be seen from the street because she was behind on the payments. She was afraid of the repo driver, and she was living with her mother.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. hmm
So anyway, I've
so
solved it. That's the bottom line. I found enough material. I applied it. I got a system. I solved it, and it's a different life now.
And I'm all about collaborating. So see, because Rennie solved it, I don't have to solve it. That's why we're talking today, and I can introduce you to Rennie, and you can check out his material. That's why it gets so much simpler when you do this. Um,
Exactly. Tony Robbins has a great expression, and it's model what works, and that's what I did.
okay, I look forward to learning it. First, I want to introduce you to everyone. Okay, so
Terrific. Go right ahead.
okay, what sets Rennie Gabriel apart from others in the financial services area is he's gone from the bottom to the top more than once. He's owned multiple businesses and held most of the financial industry licenses and professional designations. More importantly, he walks his talk, following the same steps in his award-winning best-selling book, Wealth on Any Income. Rennie has become a multimillionaire in less than 10 years after being broke at age 50. Rennie lives on his investment income and donates 100% of his book, speaking, and training profits to sheltertosoldier.org, where dogs are rescued from deadly environments and trained as service animals to post 9/11 soldiers who've returned with post-traumatic stress, PTSD, and traumatic brain injuries, that's TBI. It's really great that you do that, Rennie, and I look forward to learning why.
Thank you. Yeah, and well, I've got three dogs that I've rescued from shelters or other environments, and so if you hear one of them barking in the background, it's because we live with three dogs.
Okay.
I just think they're wonderful creatures, and then our soldiers are out there in foreign countries doing things that none of us would be willing to do voluntarily, that give us the freedoms to do what we do. So this program saves two lives at a time, and it's my pleasure to donate as much money as I can to them.
I'll keep going with the intro. Rennie is passionate about supporting you to generate and keep more of the money you make to create your desired level of wealth. He provides all the tools and techniques that are missing for most people, and he provides the personal support and encouragement to break through your limiting and disempowering barriers, thoughts, attitudes, beliefs, or decisions. Yeah, that's big, Rennie. And just one more thing about Rennie. He spent decades creating, improving, and perfecting the concepts, programs, and training that leads to the most powerful transformations with your relationship to money and wealth. From simple spending registers to brain-based learning techniques, his book and programs cover the full spectrum from getting out of debt to saving and investing that sets you financially free. That's very exciting. Thanks again for being on the show today, Rennie.
You're welcome, Bevan. My pleasure. So you were asking me about what the 3 secrets were of the wealthy. So let me cover that because I think everything could be summarized there.
Okay.
And you and your listeners have probably heard of the American Film Institute, AFI, and the acronym AFI has to do with wealth and nothing to do with the American Film Institute. The A stands for attitude, and that's probably the most important. Everybody's heard attitude, mindset, and all of that. Well, that is crucial to creating wealth because so many people have different emotional blocks, whether it's they don't feel they're good with numbers. As an example, I failed high school math, so that has nothing to do with creating wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Other people might have things where their parents or school teachers or counselors or siblings or someone said, you can't do this or you're not good enough. And, people end up playing these tapes for themselves after people have stopped saying this to them. So there's this emotional stuff that gets in the way.
Or if someone, when they were young, another example of it is when they say, like, that's for rich people. So they go, okay, there's rich people and there's us. So they separate themselves. And so they make it part of their identity.
Absolutely correct. And I was fortunate enough not to get any kind of messages, either positive or negative. Well, the only one I got that I would say is negative is money doesn't grow on trees. Well, actually it does. If you think of people who own orchards and farms, the corn crops, the orange crops, the almond crops, that's the money growing on the trees,
Yeah.
So these messages need to be changed, and we have the ability and the power individually to change this attitude that we may be carrying around, to create a mindset that works. I mean, Hollywood, as an example, perpetuates the myth that rich people are bad and evil, and only the poor people are good, and they're the only ones who have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Think of the movie Titanic, where it was the rich guy who was evil, and it was the poor guy who wins the girl. Think of the Jimmy Stewart movie about Christmas time, which I think It's a Wonderful Life, where the wealthiest person in town was just evil old guy in the wheelchair, and Jimmy Stewart, who had nothing, was the hero.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Charles Dickens wrote about it too, with Scrooge and little Tim or whoever it was.
Yeah, exact. Right. The little handy. Right. Over and over and over again, Hollywood and authors portrayed the poor people as the good ones and the rich people as the evil ones. Well, guess what? All the libraries on the East Coast that were started by Andrew Carnegie were because of him becoming wealthy and then giving it all away. He literally said the purpose of creating wealth is to give it away.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Bill Gates, who is finding cures for diseases all around the world. He couldn't do that if he were poor.
Yeah, and Richard Branson. I'm listening to his
on and on and on. People are bringing billionaires together to donate their money to good causes. Well, you can't donate billions of dollars to good causes if you don't have any money.
Right.
So these are people who have created tremendous wealth, who are using it to advance social causes.
Mm-hmm.
So Hollywood takes the opposite position, that evil people are the rich ones, and it's only the good people who are poor.
Mm-hmm.
So that attitude and mindset needs to change, and that's the first part of becoming wealthy. That's the A for attitude. The next item, F, is for forms. Now, we're all familiar with the kind of forms where the bank asks you to tell them how much you're worth before they loan any money to you. And the difference is a wealthy person looks at these forms differently. And what I'm getting at, there are things that are on there like your house. And your accountant will tell you your house is an asset. Your house is not an asset. Your house is an expense. It requires property taxes. It requires insurance. There are utilities to pay. And if you don't have it paid off free and clear, then you have a mortgage to pay. The point is, your house takes money away from you. It doesn't generate money for you.
Yeah, great point. Assets and liabilities. You have to know what that actually means.
Exactly.
And one thing I learned from Dan Locke about like how do wealthy people think differently than other people. Someone might say, like a scarcity person would say like how, like, oh, I can't afford it. And a resourceful person says, how can I afford it? And a rich person says, how can I make it make me money? So with his house, he made his house an asset because instead he would do meetings in his house. So people come and meet him there. So he's doing his business in the house.
Right. And, you know, we've converted our house into something that actually generates an income. When it was paid off, we borrowed at a lower rate than what we're able to take that money and invest it at. So we actually make a 4% spread on the money from our house. And so it can be converted into an income generating asset, but that 99% of the population doesn't do that, doesn't know that. And the example you provided is terrific. Versus, I can't afford it, versus how can I afford it, versus how do I have this make money for me?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, that's what I'm getting at. So with the forms, they're looking at, are these personal use assets or are these investable assets? And you can convert a personal use asset into an investable asset, but you need to come from the mindset to look for it on those forms.
Okay.
The last item, the I, AFI, the I stands for investments. And wealthy people are not limited to stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. They own triple net leases. They own commercial real estate, multi-unit residential real estate. They may invest in life settlements, oil and gas, development projects. I mean, so many other things. And they, again, are not limited to stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, which is kind of thrown down the throat of the general population, is that if you want to retire, you need to have a portfolio of stocks and bonds. No, that's not true. So,
all right.
Those are the three secrets: attitude, forms, and investments. And the wealthy look at all of those items completely different than the rest of the population.
It shows me that I don't know much now, but I want to know a lot more about these things. Great. Now, and also, I wanted to really ask you this question. Why do you raise money for Shelter to Soldier?
Because it touches me deeply. I used to make donations to animal causes. I still do. I would make separate donations to veteran causes. We have, soldiers who go to other parts of the world, they come back, they've lost arms or legs, or they have emotional trauma. War is not healthy for children and other living things. And we have soldiers who go to other parts of the world and allow us to do what we do here. We enjoy the freedoms we have, and I enjoy the things I get to do because of what these soldiers are doing for us. And the Veterans Administration does not treat them in a way that is respectful. They don't take care of their needs when they come back. They don't provide the level of psychological counseling. Rather than solving the emotional issues that they have, they put them in groups. Well, they're not able to function in groups, or they drug them, and the drugs don't provide any solutions. The animals, and a lot of organizations use animals, whether it's horses or dogs or whatever, to reach children who have autism, to reach people who have other emotional issues. Animals and human beings create amazing connections. And so these service dogs, these dogs that are trained to support veterans who've come back, are literally stopping them from committing suicide and helping them function again in society as close to being a whole human being as possible. Our veterans are committing suicide at the rate of about 22 per day, or about every 69 minutes, another veteran is killing themselves. And there's not one veteran who's received one of these service dogs that I'm aware of that's committed suicide. The dogs are not being euthanized that have a purpose in life, and they're keeping people alive that would have otherwise committed suicide. So that's why I'm making the donations to Shelter to Soldier.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. It's a great solution to multiple problems, and dogs just love unconditionally. It makes it.
Absolutely right. Yep. So, I love dogs. I mean, I've seen the bumper sticker that says, "The more people I meet, the more I love my dog."
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
And so that's what it's like.
Mm-hmm. So why is the topic of the 3 secrets of the wealthy so important to you?
Because my book, Wealth on Any Income, has 12 steps, and it's like a 12-step program. But the reality is that's a little bit too much for most people to handle. So what I did is I tried to boil it down to the 3 most important essential steps. And it's mindset, how we look at the forms, and what investments are available to us. Obviously, there's more depth in each of those areas, but I think that's the simplest, most basic approach on what it takes to create wealth.
Okay, so let's go more into it then. What are some of the beliefs that people have that get in the way of creating financial abundance?
Oh, simple things. As an example, a wealthy person, well, let me start with a poor person. A poor person might be looking to buy a home for an investment. And they walk into a home and they see the carpet is frayed and the walls are grimy and need to be repainted, and the plumbing is not working, it's dripping. And they're looking at these details and they don't buy the house. The wealthy person walks in, or the person with the wealthy mindset, and says, "Oh, this is a fabulous house in a wonderful neighborhood, and it's got problems that are easy to solve." And they buy the house and they fix the plumbing and they repaint and they replace the carpeting and they put in hardwood floors, and they make a tremendous profit because essentially the house is in good shape in a good neighborhood. They're looking at the big picture first and not the details. The poor person looks at the details first and completely misses the big picture. Another attitude, a poor person will hear something familiar like, "You should pay yourself first." And they'll make a statement like, "I've heard that before," or "I've done that," or a statement like, "That's not new to me, I know that." That's what a poor person does, or a poor mindset. It's making statements when they hear familiar information. Instead, the mindset of a wealthy person asks questions when they hear familiar information. They ask questions like, "When will I start that?" Or "Where does this apply to me?" Or "How do I make this work for me?" Or "Who can support me in this?" I mean, the questions kids learn in grammar school if they're going to write something. Who, where, when, what. Well, not why. People try and add why, and that's a bad question. Wealthy people don't ask why, because when you ask a why question like, "Why does this never work out for me?" your mind will make up an answer which will not support you.
Mm-hmm. What about how? Is it good to ask a how, like how to apply that thing? Or
Absolutely, because when you ask the right questions, you get the answers. So if I say, "How do I apply this in my situation?" now the mind can start to work and it will find the answer. As an example, I was in a situation where I needed to figure out, how do I pay myself first when I have people who give me a check for $90, $100, $200. This is not a paycheck. Individual people are giving me checks. How do I pay myself first? And then what I came up with was a solution that every time I put a check in the ATM machine, I'll take 10% of that and move it to a separate savings account right at the ATM machine. So every time I deposited a check, I transferred 10% to a separate savings account that was attached to that same ATM card. So a how question is a fabulous question to ask.
Did you do that manually, or did you set it up with the bank so that they make the transfer?
No, I did it manually, because if the bank is doing it automatically, then I'm not participating in creating my own wealth. I need to be doing this on a conscious level to change the brain connections so that creating wealth is something I'm doing consciously, not that it's happening behind the scenes and I'm not connected to it.
I'm glad I asked that question. Thank you.
I'm glad you did too.
All right. So about your book, Wealth on Any Income, how is this book different from other books on money management or finance?
I think it's different in a couple of very important ways. The first third of the book is the mindset piece. It's what are the emotional blocks that we have to get out of the way, and what are the actual exercises we need to go through to get those emotional blocks out of the way. I mean, did we learn our attitudes from our parents? What were our parents' attitudes? How are our attitudes similar or different than our parents? Are we reacting to what they taught us, or are we just blindly following what they did as examples? So the first third of the book is the emotional component to handling money effectively. And the way I talk about it is, think of someone who is overweight or obese. Bevan, let me ask you this. What do you think are the two things an obese person needs to do to lose weight?
Two things.
Two things.
Get the habit of exercising.
Exercising is one, yeah.
Definitely be aware of what you're eating. So
And
they need to eat wisely. They may be eating the wrong food or too much.
Exactly. So the two things are changing your eating and exercising. Now, every obese person I have ever met knows this. And knowing it is irrelevant, because if all it took was knowing something, then everyone would be wealthy, everyone would be at the ideal weight, and that's not the case. There are emotional issues in the way of putting that knowledge into action. And so that's what the first third of the book does. It shows you how to put the knowledge into action. And then the latter two thirds are the tips and techniques to create wealth. It's how to do a budget. It's how to get rid of credit card debt. It's what are the investments that are available. It's how you pay yourself first. It's how you even determine where your money is going. So I would say that's why my book is different. One, the first third is to get the emotional stuff out of the way. And the second 2/3 of the book is the tips and the techniques that people can apply to create wealth. And by the way, if someone logs onto my website, wealthonanyincome.com, I give away a free summary of the book, including the forms that I use and that wealthy people use to handle money more effectively. So anyone who logs on and clicks free gifts can have a free summary of my book and all sorts of other business building tools. And I've got nothing to sell. It's just there free for people who want it.
Thank you. So, so you talk about good debt and bad debt. Isn't all debt bad?
No. Consumer debt is bad, where people are carrying balances on their credit cards because that prevents them from creating wealth, because that money is going to banks or other credit issuers. And good debt is the kind of debt that a bank loans money to you so you can buy investment assets like apartment buildings or shopping centers or whatever. So I've got millions of dollars of good debt, which is generating more of an income that allows me to not have to work for a living.
You know what's funny? In a book I read recently by George Alexander, it's called The Tycoon, and it's a story, like I think it's fictional. But this guy said he learned that like he became a tycoon. He became very wealthy, but he came from a poor background. A poor millionaire has $1 million in cash, and a rich millionaire has $1 million in debt. Like banks, they owe this, at least this much to banks. So
Yeah.
that's that good debt you're talking about, where you borrowed money to get something, an asset that's producing money for you.
Exactly. When I started out, how do I phrase it? Let me just give you an example that I have in the book. If someone spends 2 years paying off, let's say, a $6,000 credit card debt at $300 a month, 2 years later, they will be debt-free. That's it. Okay, now they don't have debt, but they don't have any income-producing assets. That's number one. Let's say instead they make the minimum payments on the credit card for 2 years, and they take $300 a month and they begin investing. And by the way, I talk about the ability to invest at 12% earnings. People say, you can't get that from the bank. And that's correct. You can't get it. You don't do it in the bank. The bank's a parking space. That difference of waiting 2 years to pay off the debt first before setting aside $300 a month, 30 years down the road costs a $200,000 loss in investment earnings. That $6,000 debt that someone spent 2 years paying off cost them $200,000 in money they could have had if they'd have started right away.
Does this happen even if, like, say you're making 12% on the money that you invest into something, whereas the credit card is charging 20% interest?
Yeah, I actually did the example that way. I said you're paying 18% on your credit card and only earning 12%. So I created a 6% gap. And that's why CPAs will say you're paying 18% on your credit card, pay that off. No, better to start investing, because the investments compound. They grow by compounding. Your debt does not compound. There's no point paying that off first. And I didn't do that. And I created a level of wealth where now the money from my investments make the credit card payments for me. It doesn't even come out of my pocket.
Interesting.
Yeah. You know, I mean, if you Susie Orman will say, pay off your credit card debt. Your accountant might say, pay off your credit card debt. Well, guess what? Your accountant is not wealthy. He's learned how to do tax returns. He has not learned how to create wealth.
So how do the values of an individual tie into their goals?
Oh, you know, that's really important. And Warren Buffett has a fabulous expression. He said he's met jerks in his life. And he's met people who became billionaires and they were still jerks. Now they were just jerks with $1 billion. So the personal values that people have are, you know, who they're going to become, whether they have money or they're not. And people have a fear that if they're a good person and they contribute to various causes and they take care of other people, that if they become wealthy, they'll change. No.
And that probably comes from that perception, right, with all the Hollywood movies. So if we think, well, all the rich people are bad, or that's how they got there, like Scarface, right?
Yeah,
if
right.
People believe that, then they think when I become rich, I'm going to be like that.
Exactly. And so what I'm getting at is the values that people have wherever they are in life are the same values they'll have when they become wealthy. I mean, one of the things that, okay, my car is 11 years old. It's a 2006 RAV4 Toyota. I could have any car I want, but my attitude is there's nothing wrong with that car. It serves a function. It works for me. I enjoy it. I don't need to get a new car to show off to people I don't care about that I can afford a new car. The values I've had since I've been young about not showing off and not being flashy are the same values I have now. You know, I did put on a nice shirt for this interview.
Hmm.
But other than that, I'd have been wearing a Hawaiian shirt today.
Hmm. Yeah, and I was about to point out the shirt. I was gonna point out, see, it's not a $3,000 suit or something, right?
No, it's not. I will not. I mean, I'll dress up for a wedding or, a baby shower or something like that, but I am, not going to wear a suit any other time. I don't need to impress strangers.
Yeah.
I can buy and sell most people. My wealth puts me in the top 1% of Americans. I don't need to impress people on the outside. What I need to know is I'm secure on the inside.
Absolutely. And so money multiplies who we are. It just magnifies who we already are.
That's a beautiful way of saying it. It just magnifies who we already are.
Okay. So here's a different question. You were talking about stocks, bonds, and mutual funds and how investments go far beyond that. Do you recommend playing the stock market right now? Strange, because you gave me some potential questions I could ask. It's strange. Also, it says the word playing, right? It sounds almost gambling.
Yeah, I use that word because I hear that expression from people, and I like to equate playing the stock market with playing roulette or blackjack in Las Vegas, because there are people who approach investing in the stock market the same way. They're gambling, they're not investing.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter, what terms you use. The point is, if you're going to put money in stocks, that you want to be investing and not playing the market. That's just a game. And there are people who go to Las Vegas and other places, Atlantic City, to gamble, and they find that entertaining. And if that's what you're doing in the stock market for entertainment, fine. But that's not how you'll create wealth.
What about investing in the stock market, though?
Investing in the stock market is appropriate. There are companies that have consistent dividends year after year. They do grow in value because they have a consistent dividend stream. And those are companies that it's appropriate to invest in and own some of. And wealthy people don't park their money in the stock market and hope it rises in value. They are actively involved in their investments. Only about 10 to 15% of my family's money is in equities or the stocks. The bulk of it is in assets I control. Wealthy people want to control their investments, and you can't do that with stocks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can you tell me who the president is of General Motors?
No.
No, you're too far from your money. But I can tell you who owns the apartment building in Burbank. It's me.
Yeah. But about investing in stocks, I've listened to this book recently called The Four by Scott Galloway. It's the four most influential companies: Apple, Facebook, Google, and Amazon. So what do you think about Amazon? See, they're reinvesting their profits into buying more infrastructure.
Yes.
They want to dominate globally logistics, right? Shipping, land, sea, and air. So they're not really showing a bunch of profit or giving dividends, but I think they plan to. They're telling a great story. This is what he says, right, to investors. And so they're able to get capital very cheaply. But in the future, at a certain point when they've scaled enough and killed off all the competition, probably, then they could be returning money to investors. So just wondering what you think.
It's a difficult question to answer, only from the standpoint of it depends on personal attitudes. And here's what I'm getting at. Philip Morris changed their name to Altria, and Philip Morris probably still is a profitable company selling products that kill people. Okay, so I've never owned Philip Morris stock because I don't want to own a company that manufactures products that kill people.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, so I don't care if they were profitable or not. Amazon falls in a similar category from the standpoint that they use truly unscrupulous approaches to driving certain businesses out of existence to maintain their profit and continue to grow. As an example, I know of an entrepreneur who was selling his products through Amazon. He was having them manufactured in China. Amazon, he was selling about $90,000 a month of products, which is a very healthy number.
Yeah.
Amazon went to him and said, we believe you are selling counterfeit products. We want you to provide all of the proof necessary so that we know where they're manufactured and that these are not counterfeit products.
Ah, I see. Yeah,
So
that's
he
how they
provided that information of who was making it and the specifics. They went to the company and bought the same products directly. And one day to the next, he went from $90,000 a month in revenue to zero because they started selling the products directly.
Good point. Well, this is part of their system, because at first they just sell their own products through Amazon, right? It's e-commerce, but started with selling books.
Right.
But then open up the platform to selling anything and allow other people to sell it through their system.
Yeah.
But they get all the data. So from that, they see, oh, this thing is selling great, right? And then they put them out of business. They just start selling that thing themselves. So it's actually how they do it.
Yeah.
Google does the same thing. This is why Scott Galloway called them the four horsemen. So Google does
the apocalypse. Yes.
Yeah. If you create a website, you're getting lots of free traffic from Google. You're monetizing it effectively. They can look at that and duplicate it or just shut down your traffic. So that's happened to a friend of mine too.
Yeah. So that's why when you ask, are these the companies to invest in? It depends on your personal attitude about how important it is to make money versus how important it is to allow all businesses to thrive. Or is it okay to invest in companies that manufacture products that kill people? You know, and that's your personal value system, and I can't judge that.
It's actually why I quit my job the first time in 2010. It's a values thing. I don't want to just make profits, right? So I don't want to work for a company that does the same thing. I want it to, value people and their health and the world, the environment. So if the values aren't there, then I didn't want to be a part of it. So like the way I said, didn't want to be part of a problem, but part of a solution.
So our values are in sync. And that's why I couldn't answer your question about whether or not to invest in the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
All right. Okay, that's great. Thanks for giving us that dimension on it. That helps a lot.
You're welcome.
So do the concepts in your book work for business owners?
Oh, actually, they work best for business owners because when I was in business, I owned a pension administration company. I used to sell life insurance, and my income would go like this. It would go up and down. And that drove me crazy. I did not know how to work with that. So the point is, what the book does is show how to level out that income in terms of the activities in your business. And second, how to create income so you don't have to rely on the income from your business. And the wealthiest people that I knew were making investments outside of their own business. And so, this book works best for entrepreneurs because it talks about how to set goals, how to achieve goals, how to create the support system to achieve the goals in business. And employees have less flexibility. The concepts work great for employees, but they work best for people who are entrepreneurs or own their own businesses.
Okay, that's great to hear. And it spurred an idea for a joint venture I want to talk with you about.
Sure.
And also the thing with the, so I've made an assumption, so I want to ask you, so then do you advocate diversified investments in things that are in alignment with your values and they're proven to produce profits or returns or however you would phrase it?
Yeah, diversification has different meanings. In other words, let's say all my investments are in real estate. Does that mean I'm not diversified? Well, if I have apartment buildings, triple net leases, trust deeds, property in different parts of California, I say it is diversified. It's all in real estate, but it's still diversified. Well, when a financial planner, your run-of-the-mill financial planner or stockbroker talks about diversification, they might say you can have it in stocks and bonds, so you're diversified. Or maybe in stocks that you have large capitalized companies, you have small growth companies, you have investments in foreign stocks, and that's diversified. So, when you ask, should it be diversified? Well, sort of, and sort of not.
Well, okay, so what I mean is not just in one place, not just one apartment building, but into multiple things that you invested in.
Yes, I would agree with that. As an example, I knew of an elderly couple here in Los Angeles. They had all of their money in one large, I think it was like 20 or 30 units, an apartment building, and an airplane crash landed into that building and destroyed it. It killed some of their tenants. They lost it all from the lawsuits. This was an elderly couple. They had this one asset that took care of their life.
Yeah.
A plane crashed into it. Who'd expect anything like that?
Yeah.
But that's the risk that you take when everything is all in one place.
Okay. And you did, I think you may have already answered this, but it's good to put it at the end though. Do you have anything that you could give to our listeners for free?
Yes, I do. If they log onto the website, wealthonanyincome.com, they can get a free summary of my book. It's a 3-page summary. It includes the forms that the wealthy people use. There's other business building tools in there, like a focus marketing tool for business owners. There's videos that they can watch. There's other interviews I participated in, and all of that's free. Again, I don't have anything to sell. And about twice a month, I'll send out an email with some ideas on how to handle money effectively to the people who've gone to my website, and they're on my list. And I send out information. And someday, maybe next year, I'll have a product that'll go more in depth. And if they choose to buy that, terrific. And if they choose not to, that's okay. But if they do, the profits from my books, if they want to buy the full version of my book, or one-on-one coaching, or an online product, 100% of those profits, again, go to sheltertosoldier.org.
Thank you for everything that you do.
No, you're welcome, Bevan. My pleasure. Thank you for setting this up. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's been great. I look forward to learning more from you, Rennie.
That will happen, and I look forward when we're offline. You'll explain the joint venture idea you have.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. Look forward to that too. And thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.